So this slide actually should have been with the lecture 22nd. I've just divided these in three equal parts, guys, to keep the sizes of all the three files approximately same to each other. Anyways, so this one I mentioned the point that when we have two branches present, we have to order them alphabetically. So that is why the ethyl group came before the methyl group, because E is alphabetically earlier than the M. Next up is an example where you have to draw the structures from the IUPAC names. So first up is draw the structural formula of 1-bromo-4-methylhexane. So first up, when drawing these structures, you have to check which one is the parent alkane, and in this case it's a hexane. So simply draw these 6 carbon atoms long chain. Then we add up the branches. So 1-bromo means the bromine atom is attached at carbon number 1 here, and 4-methyl means that the methyl group, which is CH3, is attached at carbon number 4. Once we have done this part, we simply have to add in the hydrogen atoms to complete the structure. So for every carbon, we have to add up the hydrogens to make up the 4 complete bonds. So we add hydrogens to every carbon and we get the structure. And next up is the draw the condensed formula for this one. As for the condensed formula, we know that we simply have to write down the hydrogens in this form rather than a singular bond form as in the complete structure. So instead of adding 2 hydrogens here, we simply have written H2, H2, and so on, and H3 here in the methyl group. Next up are the worked examples where you have to determine the IUPAC names from the formulas or the structures that have been given. So again, the same rule applies. First, find out the longest chain, which in this case is octane. So we write down the octane, the parent chain, and there are 2 methyl groups attached to it, one at carbon 2 and one at carbon number 4. So it will become 2,4 dimethyl octane as the full name. Third one, second or B example is the methane group, because it has the single carbon in it. So the parent alkane is methane, and it has got 3 chlorines attached with it. So trichloro and 1 fluorine. So 1 fluoro, or we don't write the 1 or mono with it. So trichlorofluoromethane will be the name for the second compound. And for the third one, again, it is 3-chloro, 4-fluoro, 2-methyl pentane. Do remember, for the branches, it's the alphabetical number that we have to follow basically. So C is earliest in this one, that is why it comes first, then comes F, so fluoro second, and then the methyl group, which is the last in this order. Next up is some homework for you guys, where you have to draw the condensed formula for each of the following compounds. So everyone has to do it and submit it before the end of next week. More examples. Name the following compounds using the structures. So this one is the parent alkane in here, which is pentane in this case, as it has 5 carbons, 2 chlorines attached with it, 1 at 2 and 1 at 3, so 2,3-dichloropentane. So more examples for you guys to practice these along with the answers. So this one are more examples, but a little bit different question, you can say. So the question is, which one of the following pairs of compounds are identical, means they are exactly the same, and which are the constitutional isomers, or if someone which are completely unrelated. So in A, here is the structure of the first one and the second one, and if we look at it carefully, just the position of the bromine has been changed, and nothing else has been changed. So the bromine is attached down here in the first one, and on the left side in the second one, and it's just swap positions with the methyl group, and it does not cause any effect. We can basically write the bromine on the left side or at the bottom. So the first two structures are completely identical. They are structures of the same molecule, which is 2,2-dibromobutane. Whereas the second one is a little bit different, as they have the same molecular formula but different bond connectivity. So these two are isomers of the molecular formula C6H12Br2. So both have 6 carbons, 12 hydrogen and 2 bromines, but the position has been changed, so the bond connectivity is different. So these two are isomers of each other. Next up are cycloalkanes. So cycloalkanes have 2 less hydrogen atoms than the corresponding chain alkane. So their general formula will be CnH2n, which in alkanes was CnH2n plus 2. So if we have a 6 carbon alkane, which will be called hexane, it will have 6 carbons and 14 hydrogens. On the other hand, if we have the cyclohexane, it will have a C6H12 formula. So simply the cyclo counterparts have got 2 hydrogens less than the normal or linear structures. And the name cycloalkanes prefix cyclo is simply added because it's a ring-like or cyclic structure before the corresponding alkane or the similar alkane. Place the substituents in alphabetical order, so any branches will be named in alphabetical order, just like for the alkanes we did. And for the multiple substituents, use the lowest possible set of numbers. The single substituent required no number with it. We simply write the name of the branch. So we have a few of the cycloalkane structures in this one. First column is representing the full structure, second one condensed structure, and the third one is the line formula. So cyclopropane, which has got 3 carbons in total, in line structure it will simply be represented as the triangle. In condensed structure we simply have to add up we don't have to write the carbons in it, and for the full structure we have to write each and every atom with the bond in it. Cyclobutane simply has 4 carbons, same thing, and cyclohexane have got 6 carbons in it. Next is naming these substituted cycloalkanes. So one or two of the hydrogens have been replaced by some other atoms in these. So a couple of structures are here at the bottom. First thing up, we have to check how many carbons are there in the parent chain. So we can count these. They turn out to be 6 in total, and therefore it's a cyclohexane. Next is we have to check the substituent, which atom have been replaced by which atom. So here it is the chlorine which has been replaced, so it will be called chloro, and the name becomes chlorocyclohexane. Looking at the second one, it's a 5 carbon ring, so it's going to be a cyclopentane, and the substituent in this case is the methyl group, so it will be called methyl cyclopentane. Next up are more examples for these cycloalkanes. So you have to write the names and the structures have been shown. So first one here has got a chlorine substituent, and it's a 6 carbon cyclohexane, which will be known as the heptane. So it's a chlorocycloheptane right here. And the second one has got 3 carbons. It's a propane, substituent is methyl, so methyl cyclopropane is there. For the remaining two, add them up in the homework, and you have to submit it along with the other homework that I just gave you. Next is the di-substituted cycloalkanes. So these ones have got more than one substitutes present in them. So first example, same thing again. First we have to check the parent chain, how many carbons are there. So 6 carbons in total, so this will be a cyclohexane. Second thing is we have to check the branches, and the branches have to be named alphabetically. So this will be the first branch, ethyl group, and the second one, the methyl group. So the name turns out to be 1-ethyl 2-methyl cyclohexane, and the same structure can be written in this form as well, which is the linear structure. Second is an example at the bottom, which has got 5 carbons in it. So this will be a cyclopentane, and it has got 2 substituents, and because nothing is mentioned or nothing is formed at the end, therefore both the substituents are the methyl groups. So we will simply number them 1 and 2. Doesn't matter which way we go, it both will have the same result. So this one is going to be 1,2 dimethyl cyclopentane. That will be the name of this structure at the bottom. Next up is a concept known as cis-trans isomers in these cycloalkanes. So these are a special type of isomers, and before going to the detail, we have to know some basic chemistry of these cycloalkanes. So the atoms of an alkane can rotate freely around the carbon-carbon single bonds and can have an unlimited number of arrangements. So this is not an issue in the simple alkanes. But the rotation around the bond in a cyclic structure is limited because of the fact that all carbons in the ring are interlocked with each other. So in other words, they do not permit free rotation around these bonds. And because of this lack of free rotation, this gives rise to different types of structures known as cis-trans isomers, also called as geometric isomers. So the thing to remember is that they result due to the lack of free rotation. And these cis-trans isomers, also known as stereoisomers, are the molecules that have the same structural formula, and the bonding pattern is the same as well, but the only difference is the different arrangement of atoms in the space. So this one is the definition of these stereoisomers, or the cis and trans isomers. And cis-trans isomers of cycloalkanes are the stereoisomers, basically whose substituents differ in spatial arrangement. So this one is the same definition, basically written in different wording. So both are correct definitions for these cis-trans isomers. Here is an example of this cis-trans isomerism, where we can see there are 2 cyclohexane molecules, and both have got 2 chlorine atoms as substituents. But the only difference is that the chlorine atoms on this left molecule are both at the bottom, whereas in this right one chlorine is at the bottom and the other one is at the top of the carbon. So it's below the ring. One is below the ring, one is above the ring. So 2 groups that exist on the same side basically are known as the cis isomer, whereas if they exist on the opposite side, they will be called the trans isomers. So the left structure is the cis variety, because both of these chlorine exist on the same side, that is below the ring, whereas on the right side it will be called a trans isomer because they exist on the opposite side of the ring. And another thing to remember is that they cannot readily interconvert into each other. So one form cannot be easily converted into the other form unless we have to break the carbon-carbon bonds. So carbon-carbon bonds have to be broken if you want to convert one form into the other. Next up are a few worked examples on the cis and trans isomerism, and the structures they are showing are of the wedge bonding, basically, which we discussed earlier as well. So in the first example, there are 2 chlorines. So how would we know that they are on the same side or the opposite side? Is we have to look at these bonds that are attached with it. So these are the wedge bonding, and they are both of the same type. So this means that they are both present on the same side of the ring. Whether above or below, it doesn't really matter because the information is not there. So this one will be a cis isomer. Same is the case with this one. Both are dashed wedges, means that both are present on the same side of the molecule. So this one is also a cis configuration or cis isomer. Here one is dotted and the other one is the you can say a complete wedge or the bold wedge. So this one is a trans configuration, and so is the last one, that is also a trans configuration, because one edge is different from the other wedge. So this one is also a trans configuration. More example where we have to name these structures, whether they are cis, trans, isomers, and write their full names as well. So A has 4 carbons in parent chains. It's a cyclobutane, sorry. 2 bromines are the substituents, and both have the same wedge. Therefore, it's a cis structure. So cis 1,3-dibromo cyclobutane will be the name of the first one. B, on the other hand, is also a cyclobutane, has got 4 carbons in it, and it has got 1 bromine and 1 chlorine. Again, same type of wedges, so it has to be a cis. So cis 1-bromo 3-chlorocyclobutane is the name of the second one. Third one has got 6 carbons in the parent alkane, so it's a cyclohexane, and it has got 2 substituents. One methyl, sorry, both are methyl, and if you look at the wedges, they are different this time. Therefore, this one has to be the trans configuration. So the name will be trans 1,3-dimethyl cyclohexane. And the last one, again, the wedges are similar. The substituents are chlorine molecules. It's a cis-1, cis-1,4 dichlorocyclohexane, as the parent nucleotide, the parent alkane is a 6 carbon long, so it's a cyclohexane. Next up are the reactions of these alkanes. So alkanes, cycloalkanes, as well as other hydrocarbons have a few common reactions, and the most common one out of these is known as combustion. So in combustion, these molecules are oxidized. In other words, they are burnt in the presence of excess molecular oxygen, and this process will be called combustion. So they are oxidized. In other words, they will lose their electrons. Another common reaction of these molecules is known as halogenation reaction, and in these ones they simply react with a halogen, you know, from the periodic table, which are halogens. So chlorine, bromine are the usual ones that react with these alkanes, cycloalkanes, or other hydrocarbons. As I said in the previous slide, the majority of the reactions of alkanes are the combustion reactions, in which they react with the oxygen and lose the electrons. These combustion reactions can be of 2 types basically. One is known as complete combustion, if the products are carbon dioxide and water. So the main thing to remember is carbon dioxide. So when the alkane is oxidized and it gives the product carbon dioxide or CO2, this will be called complete combustion. On the other hand, there is another reaction known as incomplete combustion, in which the product given is carbon monoxide or CO. So carbon monoxide and water in case of incomplete combustion, and carbon dioxide and water in case of complete combustion. And this carbon monoxide is a poison that binds irreversibly with the red blood cells and cause a lot of a problem in the body, as it combines at exactly the same position on on the hemoglobin of red blood cells as does the oxygen molecule. So it basically affects the oxygen carrying capacity of the red blood cells and can cause the death of the patient as well. Next is a little bit of detail about the halogenation reactions. So these halogenation reactions is a type of substitution reaction. If you remember from the basic type of reactions, one type of reaction is the substitution reaction, in which the replacement of one group from another happens basically. So we replace one group in the substrate with another group. Products of this reaction are alkyl halide and hydrogen halide. Alkyl halide can also be called as haloalkane. And the reaction is particularly important because it can convert some unreactive alkanes into many starting materials for other products. Another very important point to remember is that this halogenation reaction only occurs in the presence of heat and or light. So sometimes these reactions will require both heat and light, and sometimes only heat, but without these factors the reactions will not occur. So here are the few reactions in actuality, the halogenation reactions. So the general rule is that the alkane reacts with the halogen. As we know, the halogens mostly occur in the dimolecular form, like if it's bromine Br2 or Cl2, etc. So one of these atoms will join with a hydrogen to make the hydrogen halide, and the other one will go into the alkyl structure and will give us the alkyl halide. So if we look at the actual reactions, we have got methane CH4 reacts with bromine. So one of the bromine replaces the hydrogen in here to make the bromomethane, and the hydrogen that goes away reacts with the other bromine atom to give us the hydrogen bromide. Similar reactions, ethane with chlorine, chloroethane plus hydrogen chloride, or cyclohexane with chlorine, same thing will happen basically. Chlorocyclohexane and hydrogen chloride will be formed. So do remember the general rule. Basically, one of the atoms of the halogen will replace a hydrogen in the alkane. Halogenation reactions continued in this slide. So this one is an example for the complex alkanes. So in the complex alkanes, including some of the branch alkanes, the halogenation can occur at any position or all the positions of the alkane basically. So the chlorine atom that will be taken away from this halogen can replace any of the hydrogens. So we can get a variety of products basically, or a mixture of mono-substituted products. So in this first example, the chlorine is going to be attached over here at the top. And in another reaction, the chlorine can be attached on the right side as well. So the product that they will give us will be different. In first case, it's 2-chloro-2-methyl propane, whereas the second one is 1-chloro 2-methyl propane. So the position of the chlorine can be different in complex alkanes or the branch alkanes, so we can get a variety of mono-substituted products. Some more examples where the worked examples for the halogenation reactions. So few of the reactions have been given, and you have to write down the proper reaction for these, the balanced equations basically. So the examples have been solved in this slide. First was the monobromination of the propane, which is the 3-carbon alkane. So here is the propane and here is the bromine or Br2. One of the bromines will substitute the hydrogen and it can give us this product, and the other bromine will react with the hydrogen to give us the hydrogen bromide. Now the thing to note is that the bromine can substitute any of these hydrogens, so it can come on the right side or it can come in the center as well. So we can have a variety of products in this one. Do remember, light or heat is always necessary for halogenation reactions. Second is a similar example, monochlorination of butane. So butane is the alkane in this case, and it is going to react with chlorine. So chlorine takes the place of one of the hydrogens. The hydrogen that goes away reacts with the other chlorine atom to give us hydrogen chloride. And again, we can have different mono-substituted products. Monochlorination of cyclobutanes. It's same butane in the cyclic form has got 4 carbons in it. One chlorine will replace the carbon and it has been attached to this carbon number. It's a cyclic structure, so it doesn't really matter where we place the chlorine, it will still be the same, and the hydrogen chloride again will be the answer. And the last one for the pentane, so this time we can have even more monosubstituted products. So 3 possibilities are there where the bromine attaches with at a different position basically, or substitutes a different hydrogen atom. Next is the medical perspective of these polohalogenated hydrocarbons, which can be used as anesthetics in the hospital settings or in the medical profession. So polyhalogenated hydrocarbons are the ones that contain 2 or more halogen atoms in them. And some of these polyhalogenated hydrocarbons are used in medicine as anesthetics. Anesthetic is any compound, or if it is a drug, any drug that relieves the pain in the patient. And a couple of examples given are for chloroethane and chloromethane. Both of these act as local anesthetics. Local anesthetics means that they will provide anesthesia over a small area. Usually these are found in the form of gel or cream formation, where you apply the cream or the gel and the pain will be relieved from that area.